So the Australian Grand Prix is this weekend. Cody, who is going to get first in Australia?
Well, I think it's a Red Bull car. I got to be honest. I don't know. I mean, it could be Checo. It can be Verstappen. I think in qualifying, literally one of them has to not be in the race for it to even be a challenge.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's Verstappen. Now, if you're going to ask me, like, who's the driver besides Red Bull that has a good shot at winning Australia, I would say Fernando Alonso. I think he's tapped into this car so well that he's getting everything he can out of it. He's getting on podium 2 races in a row. And I think I do think that Aston Martin is actually flat out faster than Mercedes and Ferrari. I think that their cars is way better constructed. And it helps too that you have a legend in Fernando Alonso that's behind the wheel, able to push this car and it produced results. So I think Red Bull, a driver from Red Bull will finish P1. That's the hot take here. I think the second hot take, though, is I think Fernando Alonso would probably be the best driver to get the to win the podium for Australia. I don't know if Mercedes has what it can, they'd have to literally qualify P1 and 2 to just even get some position. But knowing how fast their car is, if they even got P1 or P2, they're probably going to finish P3 and 4. Maybe 4 and 5, depending on Aston Martin. So that's what I would say. I'd say Fernando Alonso is probably the one to get it. And that's pretty much it. And that's how much of a discrepancy I think it is between these 4 cars, between Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. It's pretty much Red Bull, a slight break, Aston Martin, a larger break, Ferrari, and Mercedes. That's what it's looking like. And I think we're going to see that in Australia as well.
I'm going to throw a little curveball here because even though I just kind of bashed him, I don't want to say bashed him, but I'm a little more concerned than I had led on. But I do actually really feel this, and I do believe this. So it's not that I'm just throwing this out there to be like, oh, well, maybe. No, I actually do believe this. I think, first of all, Verstappen's going to win this. Mm-hmm. Barring some sort of mechanical issue, I don't see Verstappen losing this season as long as his car is working. Maybe later on in the year, when the regulations that they had on their spending this year would really start to show. I mean, then maybe we'll see how the car's running. But this car is running really well right now. I don't imagine it getting any slower. I don't imagine them tweaking anything. So I think
all those extra sandwiches are paying off, man.
Yeah. Good for Verstappen, man. He should be a Subway spokesman.
Filet mignon for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, man.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
I know, like Red Bull, why are you not working with Subway right now and just having like a Red Bull drink for Subway? Come on. Anyway, so I think Verstappen is going to win this. I actually do think that Charles Leclerc is going to get second place. And here's why. I was really impressed with the qualifier that he had in Jeddah, but I also thought he had a really good race. For the Ferrari, it's not the best car, but I think Leclerc is that talented where like Sainz is struggling. And Leclerc was they had a couple of times where they had some really good pits and it wasn't really an issue, but it just felt like Sainz and Leclerc were kind of the car wasn't running as evenly as they would wanted it to, so they just ended up keeping Sainz ahead of him. And plus, you can make the argument Sainz really is right now the breadwinner because he has the most points out of the two. So to get him more points, he can climb up there. But I really feel that Leclerc is going to end up getting second place. I just feel like his talent is fantastic. I think this Australian Grand Prix really fits to what he is really capable of doing. Again, it's going to rely on Ferrari. Barring some issues with a car, which is very highly likely apparently this year. I also do feel like I just think Leclerc is now a man on the mission. Everyone's talking about Aston Martin and how good they are, and that Fernando Alonso could possibly get third, maybe even second if they really are getting better and better. And so I think Charles Leclerc, you're going to see, is going to be flying under the radar. So I think he's going to get second, and I would actually probably put Sergio Perez in third. I think that Red Bull is running well. I just don't think he can stop Charles. So
yeah. Do you think that McLaren's going to get any points this weekend?
No, I do not. You know what? I will say this because we didn't mention it. I'm blanking on his name. Good God, Kevin Magnussen. He ended up getting 10th place, so he got a point for Haas, which I was really happy with. I always kind of watch Haas because they're the American team, so I always kind of root for them a little bit. But I think they've had really good qualifiers, and the races have been actually good. I just feel like Nico Hülkenberg towards the end of races is for some reason struggling. So I don't know if it's the car, I don't know if it's him, but Kevin Magnussen ended up being in the top 10. So I do feel like I think Haas is going to have a pretty good day. I would say maybe maybe Magnussen might get lucky and get to 7th. I think that is reasonable. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the top 10, at least one of them, or if both of them. So
I want to just say, Alpine did really good at the Jeddah race, and they had 2 drivers that finished within the top 10. And I think that Alpine is actually one of those constructors that can, is probably an underrated one in the midfield. I mean, I'd like to think that they're up there with Haas. I don't think they're at the top echelon, but I think right in the middle, I think they can be a 5th. For sure. If they just keep the drivers finishing races. I really think that Haas, my only issue with them is sometimes their drivers like Magnussen is a little reckless, and sometimes you run the risk that he just kind of gets out of control. Here, Gasly, I think, just still needs to prove if he is the driver of the future, which is, what Alpine has put all their chips behind. And especially Esteban Ocon, if he can just be safe and take his chances when it's the right opportunity and not be overzealous, and also too, if engineering wise, if that car can just stay in one piece and not fall apart on the straightaways, then it would be great. But I do think that Alpine does deserve a little bit of flowers, considering at Bahrain they didn't do so hot. They had one finish, they had one did not finish. But I think now they had a pretty good bounce back weekend, and I'm curious to see what they do in Australia. I think this is going to be an interesting weekend to see what their future is for the rest of the season, if they're really that team that could really be at the top end of the midfield, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Cody. Well, that's enough F1. Oh, you know what? Let's say one more thing about F1. Andrew is winning in fantasy Formula One right now with a whopping total fantasy points, 164. If you don't remember or you don't know, I have Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Red Bull, and Mike Crack, the team principal of Aston Martin, who Andrew picked phenomenally. All right.
So the key wasn't drivers. The key was the key was the team principals. That was it all along.
Yes, it was. And so far, my guy is getting a lot of points. So, and Cody is actually in 3rd place right now. He's got Verstappen, Hamilton, Ferrari, and Otmar. And he's in 3rd with 102 fantasy points. And then my wife, gorgeous wife, she's got Checo, she's got Carlos Sainz, Mercedes, and Gunther Steiner, and she's at 106 in 2nd. So that's our Formula One fantasy, and I literally could have zeros across the board this week and still be ahead of you guys. So
that's terrible. I might have to spend 25 points and get rid of a driver and a constructor and a principal. Just so
we'll need to talk about. We'll need to talk about that rule. We might have to make it a little less drastic.
You know what? I do like the challenge of you can't have the same principal or car or whatever from
Yeah.
the same team. Like, you do have to spread it around, because this is a great example of strategy. Like, your strategy was, okay, you know what? I'm going to get the principal and then I'll build out from there. Whereas it sounds like Jess and I went with the same route. We went with driver and then constructor, or went with the team principal. And really, the team principal in qualifying is what's helping you get the little lead.
Yeah.
Because if we had, let's say if I had Total Wolf, but I didn't have Lewis Hamilton, maybe I had Pierre Gasly, let's say, I would probably be in a better position because Total Wolf's drivers are doing better in qualifying. And that would get me more points than, let's say, one driver who may get me a maximum of 25 points. Like, you're getting 15 points just on qualifying, and we haven't even started race day. So
yeah,
I think the strategy works. So I just can't submit to the whole, oh yeah, you can have two from the same team now. I kind of like it. We're learning our lesson. And plus, like, we have to bank on that, nothing happens to Aston Martin or any of your drivers qualifying your race day. So you're on an early lead week 3, but who knows? Even if you don't finish on any of them, we could close that gap, and there's still 20 races to go. So,
yeah, which actually, you bring that up because, like, if I decide that, okay, let's say Aston Martin starts all of a sudden falling apart, I can then get rid of Mike Crack, which I hate that name because it sounds like I'm saying Mike Crack. I had to say it because every time I'm saying it, it sounds like I say that, and I'm like, dude, this is so weird. But anyway, I could get rid of him, and I can spare the 25 points. So it's actually good, but also it could be beneficial towards if I have to change anyone. So anyway, all right, I just wanted to rub that in your face.
Gee, thanks.